Zoe had eaten lunch alone for the first 3 weeks of 8th grade. Not miserably alone. She had her journal and her earbuds, but alone in the way that makes you hyper-aware of how full every other table looks. So when Brianna Carter waved her over on a Tuesday in October, Zoe walked across that cafeteria like she was trying not to run. The table was everything she'd watched from a distance. Brianna with her glossy braids and easy laugh, Madison, who was always on her phone but somehow knew everything happening at school, and Kayla, who was beautiful in the effortless way some girls are beautiful, like she'd never once thought about it. "You're in my English class," Brianna said as Zoe sat down. "You wrote that poem about your grandma. It was really good." "Thanks," Zoe said, and meant it more than she could show without embarrassing herself. For the first time since September, she went home smiling. The group chat was called The Real Ones, and Zoe was added on a Thursday. At first, it was funny memes and complaints about homework, the kind of normal that made her feel like she finally belonged somewhere. But by the following week, the messages had shifted. Screenshots of other girls, comments that were funny if you didn't know the person, and devastating if you did. One night, a photo appeared. A girl from their PE class, candid and unflattering, followed by a string of laughing emojis and captions that made Zoe's stomach turn. "Zoe, you gonna say something or what?" Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She knew exactly what they wanted her to type. She'd seen how it worked. You laughed along and you were in. Or you stayed quiet and you were next. She set the phone face down on the nightstand. On the cover of her Bible, her grandmother had written in blue pen, "Baby, God sees your choices when no one else does." Zoe picked the phone back up. Then she set it down again. She didn't type anything that night. The invitation came on a Friday. Brianna's older cousin was having people over. Her parents were out of town. It was going to be fun. Zoe's mother said yes because she thought it was just a small get-together. And technically it was. But within 20 minutes of arriving, Madison pulled something from her bag and passed it around like it was ordinary. "Your turn," Kayla said, holding it out to Zoe. The porch was quiet, except for the sound of someone's music floating through the door. 3 pairs of eyes waited. Zoe thought about how long she had wanted to belong to something. She thought about the empty lunch table in September, about how good it felt to walk down the hall and have people to walk with. She thought about all of it in about 2 seconds flat, the way your mind compresses time when the moment actually counts. Then she thought about something her youth pastor had said once. Courage isn't the absence of wanting to fit in. It's doing the right thing anyway. "No, thank you," she said, simply, without an explanation or an apology. There was a beat of silence. "Seriously?" Madison said. "Yeah," Zoe said. "Seriously." She picked up her phone and texted her mom to come early. Then she waited on the front step alone, her heart going fast, her hands still. Her mother didn't ask questions on the ride home. She just drove, one hand on the wheel and one resting open on the console between them, the way she always did when she was available without being pushy. The radio played low, some old gospel station her mother never changed. After a long stretch of silence, Zoe said, "I said no." Her mother nodded slowly, eyes on the road. "I figured. They're not going to want me around anymore." "Maybe not," her mother said. And then, quietly, "Was it worth it?" Zoe looked out the window. The streetlights passed in long orange strokes. She thought about the way she'd felt standing on that porch step. Alone again, but not the same kind of alone she'd felt in September. Different. Cleaner. Like she'd kept something intact that she hadn't known she was holding. "Yeah," she said. It was. Her mother reached over and briefly squeezed her hand. Then they drove the rest of the way home without saying anything else, which was exactly enough. Monday came the way Mondays always do, too fast and too bright. Zoe had been removed from the group chat sometime over the weekend. She noticed it the way you notice a tooth that stopped aching, suddenly and with quiet relief. She walked into school ready for the hallway to feel like September again. And it did, a little. Brianna looked past her. Madison tilted her head just enough to make the point. Kayla didn't do anything, which was almost worse. But at lunch, Zoe picked up her tray and, out of habit, or maybe something older than habit, scanned the cafeteria. That's when she saw her. A girl near the lockers with a paperback propped open and one earbud in, eating alone with the particular focus of someone pretending not to mind. Zoe recognized that posture. She had worn it herself for 3 weeks. She walked over. "Is anybody sitting here?" The girl looked up, startled, then shook her head. Zoe sat down. They talked about the book, then about the English teacher, then about other things. By the time the bell rang, something new had begun. Not the same as what she'd lost, but real, in a different and perhaps more lasting way. On the walk to class, Zoe thought about a verse she'd underlined the night before. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. She hadn't fully known what it meant when she first memorized it in Sunday school. She thought she was starting to understand now. That night, Zoe opened her journal to a fresh page. She didn't write much, just a few lines, the way she did when something was too big for a lot of words. I thought belonging meant being chosen by the right people. Maybe it actually means being the right person, even when it costs something. She closed the journal. Outside her window, the sky had gone the deep purple of late autumn evening. Somewhere down the street, a car passed, its headlights sweeping briefly across her ceiling and gone. Zoe was 13 years old. She did not have everything figured out. She still wanted to be liked. She suspected she always would. And she knew the road ahead held more moments like the one on Brianna's cousin's porch. More choices and hallways and group chats and places where the easy thing and the right thing would pull in opposite directions. But she had learned something about herself that Friday night that no table in any cafeteria could have taught her. That her faith was not just something she carried to church on Sunday mornings. It was something she carried into the hard moments, into the silence on a porch step, into a car ride home, into a school hallway on a Monday when the cost of her choice was visible and real. She had stood firm, and she was still standing.